Welcome to the Restricted Handling Daily Intel Brief. This is what's been going on in Iran and the Middle East in the past 24 hours. The biggest story today is that the US and Iran may be closer to a 60-day off-ramp, but nobody should confuse closer with done. This thing is still sitting in the danger zone. President Trump has not signed off. Iranian state-linked reporting says the text is not finalized. And the people who matter most in Tehran may not be fully aligned with the negotiators putting words on paper. The reported framework would extend the ceasefire and create a 2-month negotiating window on Iran's nuclear program. Vice President JD Vance said the U.S. is not there yet, but is very close. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said there may be the makings of a deal. That is diplomatic language for, yes, there is something real here, but no one is popping champagne, and everybody still has one hand hovering over the emergency brake. What makes this update different is the political layering around the draft. Trump has reportedly circulated the proposed agreement to allies, including Israel. That matters because Israel is not a bystander in this story. Any deal that gives Iran breathing room, defers some nuclear decisions, and requires a broader regional ceasefire will be a tough sell in Jerusalem. Israel wants freedom of action against Hezbollah. Iran wants Lebanon included in the package. Washington is trying to keep the whole contraption balanced, like someone carrying 3 coffees, a laptop, and a phone call from the boss at the same time. The Strait of Hormuz remains the hardest piece of the puzzle, but the issue is no longer simply whether ships move. The fight is over who gets to make the rules. The proposed arrangement would restore commercial shipping through the strait and gradually unwind the U.S. blockade on Iranian ports. Iran would be expected to stop harassment, remove mines, and allow traffic to return toward pre-war levels. The U.S. position is straightforward. No tolls, no Iranian permission slip system, no new maritime hustle wearing a government badge. Tehran sees it differently. Iranian officials want a role in managing the strait, possibly alongside Oman, and they are still pressing language around fees or maritime services. Washington sees that as Iran trying to monetize a choke point that carried roughly 1/5 of global oil and liquefied natural gas before the war. That is why Treasury sanctioned Iran's Persian Gulf Strait Authority. Bessent also warned that any actor helping Iran collect tolls could face sanctions. He later said Oman's ambassador assured him there were no plans to toll the strait. So yes, the diplomats are talking, but the sanctions team is still very much in the building. The economic piece is not a side quest. It is one of the main levels. Iran wants access to frozen assets and broader relief. Reporting points to an estimated $24 billion in Iranian funds frozen abroad, with Tehran seeking access to as much as $20 billion. There is also discussion of a much larger post-war investment or reconstruction fund if a final agreement is reached. Some accounts put that figure at $300 billion, though not everyone involved confirms the number. Either way, the message from Tehran is clear. If you want nuclear concessions and maritime calm, bring money to the table. The U.S. answer is also clear. Verification first, benefits later. Inside Iran, the leadership picture is murky, and that may be the most important intelligence question in the whole file. Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf has been central to negotiations and was just re-elected Speaker for a 7th consecutive term. But reporting suggests uncertainty over whether Ghalibaf's team is fully coordinated with Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei and the IRGC Power Center around Major General Ahmad Vahidi. In plain English, the people negotiating may not be able to guarantee what the hardliners will actually accept. That is a problem. Deals are only as strong as the people who can enforce them. Updating the ceasefire track, the U.S. and Iran are still trading limited blows while trying to avoid calling it a return to war. That is as unstable as it sounds. CENTCOM said U.S. forces intercepted Iranian attack drones near Hormuz and struck a control site at Bandar Abbas. Iran responded by launching a ballistic missile toward Kuwait, where U.S. forces are based, and Kuwaiti defenses intercepted it. Iranian state television later claimed a U.S. aircraft had been shot down near Bushehr. CENTCOM denied it and said all U.S. air assets were accounted for. The tactical details matter here only because they show how little margin exists. One mistake could turn limited exchange into everybody cancel your weekend. Lebanon is now the regional spoiler to watch. Israel has expanded pressure on Hezbollah while the U.S.-Iran framework is still being negotiated. The IDF struck near Beirut, and Israeli media identified the reported target as Ali al-Husseini, linked to the Imam Hussein Division's missile force. Israel has also expanded operations in southern Lebanon and issued evacuation orders south of the Zahrani River. The strategic point is not just that Israel is hitting Hezbollah. It is that these strikes could collide directly with Iran's demand that any deal include Lebanon. That puts Washington in a tight spot. Restrain Israel too much and risk a fight with an ally. Give Israel too much room and risk losing the Iran package. Hezbollah's new drone tactics are adding pressure inside Israel. The group is using fiber optic first-person view drones that are difficult to jam and hard to detect. They are cheap, low-flying, and nasty in the way only modern battlefield improvisation can be. The tactic draws from lessons visible in Ukraine, where drones have turned into the grim little stars of the battlefield. Israeli forces are using netting, counter-drone systems, and strikes on operators, but officials acknowledge the solution is not complete. The strategic effect is bigger than the weapon itself. Hezbollah is creating political pressure on Netanyahu to go harder in Lebanon at the exact moment Washington needs the region quieter. Gaza is another major stress point. Netanyahu said he has directed the IDF to expand control of the Strip to 70%, up from around 60%, and well beyond the 53% line associated with the October ceasefire. He described the approach as squeezing Hamas. Defense Minister Israel Katz repeated that Hamas will not rule Gaza militarily or politically, and again referenced voluntary emigration. That phrase lands heavily because the humanitarian conditions in Gaza are already severe, and outside observers warn that movement under those conditions may not be meaningfully voluntary. The Gaza decision puts the Trump-backed ceasefire framework under serious strain. The original logic was a yellow line arrangement: Hamas disarmament talks, and eventual transition steps. Expanded Israeli control changes the facts on the ground. Palestinians are pushed into less space. Israeli-backed armed groups are reportedly helping clear areas near the line. Israeli strikes have continued during the ceasefire, including attacks that killed senior Hamas figures such as Mohammed Odeh and Ahmad Aslim, along with reported civilian casualties. For negotiators trying to stabilize the region, Gaza is not background noise. It is another fire alarm going off down the hallway. One more intelligence issue deserves attention because it is the kind of threat that sounds boring until it gets people killed. CENTCOM disclosed in an April letter to Senator Ron Wyden that adversaries have exploited commercially available location data to surveil or target U.S. personnel in theater. That means data from phones, apps, advertising IDs, and brokers can reveal where troops gather, how they move, and what patterns they follow. Lawmakers are pressing for advertising IDs to be disabled, location sharing reduced, and risky apps or browsers limited on government devices. The modern battlefield now includes the app ecosystem. Not exactly Jason Bourne, more like Jason Bourne getting compromised by a weather app with terrible privacy settings. Thanks for listening and helping build this community. If you'd like to support the show, leaving a comment or sharing the episode helps more people find it. And if you want to continue the conversation, we publish a daily intel brief on Substack at restrictedhandling.substack.com with deeper analysis on Russia, China, Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.